Like your college entry, like, acting classes, I'm sure, right?
Right. I have this picture of them all in a large dance studio with mirrors on the wall and one single acting teacher trying to corral this group of 18 kids.
All trying to force them to act.
Who all just want to rock and roll.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm a little surprised that none of them took high school acting.
They did a lot of High School Music stuff. Not High School Musical stuff at all. That would have been fun.
Right, that would have been fun. I mean, it would have been some dramatic foreshadowing.
It would have been some dramatic foreshadowing. But I didn't even get a ton of musical involvement in band classes or things like that out of Mark Jackson and Jeff Casey. It was a lot of after-school and independent music work.
They were kind of like the behind closed doors garage band.
Right, yeah.
The company produced a 17-minute promo reel, 17 minutes, to try and promote this movie.
I can't believe... How do you produce a 17-minute promo reel, which is essentially just a trailer?
Right.
A 17-minute trailer of this movie is essentially the entire movie without any of the songs. Apparently, the rock alien costumes were inspired by the flying monkeys in the 1939 Goldwyn Mayers film, The Wizard of Oz.
So that's why they looked familiar. So I know it's kind of like a Captain Obvious, but the teleporter was based off the TARDIS from the 1963 British science fiction series, Doctor Who.
So the early screenings of this movie did not contain the music video When the Rain Begins to Fall. As I think we've already said, that only became stapled on later after screenings of the movie went incredibly poorly, and Pia became incredibly nervous about the movie's overall success.
Right.
Thus, she flew to Italy with Jermaine Jackson and shot this music video last minute to have it stapled onto the end of the movie. They then thought that was a dumb idea and reversed course and took the music video and stapled it onto the front. They were actually going to end it originally with the song number between Tom Nolan and Pia Sedora.
Right, Little Bit of Heaven.
Little Bit of Heaven, yes, with that number that then got cut into the middle. Which also I'm glad about because it's a weak number. And it doesn't make sense with the end of the movie where she just ditches out after she finds out that sex is not an option, you know?
And When the Rain Begins to Fall, it really sets up the movie.
It's the better number.
Yeah.
It's the better number. It also has a German...
It sets up the movie, it closes the movie out.
It does. Exactly. Interestingly enough, Pia was actually 6 weeks pregnant during this segment, but not during the rest of the movie. This music video does leave us into a weird place with the canon of the movie.
Right, because that music video does not take place on Earth, according to the ship.
No, it takes place on Asarina. Clearly on Asarina, and that is ruled out as an option. And the only person that we ever see again is Pia Sedora, or another person that just looks exactly like that person.
Right.
So you're left with only a couple options. Dee Dee is a Time Lord.
Right, she just travels when no one's looking.
Or she is hitchhiked intergalactically before that. Actually seems possible. She wanted to be a bomber pilot or a nun or...
Right, so why not be both?
Right, I could see her hitching a ride with Flash Gordon. You know? But that being said, we don't actually know what to do with this character. You can either go with, this is Dee Dee, and this does not take place on Asarina, and that Dee Dee is just having her summer of love. That does make sense canonically, in a way, if you rule out what the Rhema scan says in the beginning of the movie.
Right. And also, there's, she could be Gurmar from Santa Claus Conquers the Martians.
That's the other obvious option that we both saw, because this is a different planet, and Gurmar grew up with Santa Claus, presumably, and
in this alternate reality, she'd be the same age as Pia Sedora.
She would be the same age as Pia Sedora, so
Dee Dee.
Yes,
right.
So it makes sense for her to be off on her intergalactic quest for love.
Right.
But it does leave me with just one more question, which is during the gym scene, Absid teleports Pia Sedora, and when he teleports her on stage, she is all of a sudden wearing a costume that is very similar to the one we see the woman Asarina wearing.
Very similar.
Very similar. I thought it was the same one. We actually had to look it up.
Yeah, no, it is the same one from A Little Bit of Heaven, though.
It is the same one from A Little Bit of Heaven, but it is not the same one quite from the beginning.
That just means that Absid has really good tailoring skills for just his vivid imagination. Patrick Burns, who played Stovitz, reportedly spent hours practicing in front of a mirror to perfect the character.
What a waste of time.
I like it. I wish they kept it.
Very Dangerous, which you're listening to now, was another Rhema song.
So what's your step in the dark, turn your back? Oh no, is this the mean streak of my own pride?
Very Dangerous, the song you were just listening to, was another Rhema song scheduled to be shot for the movie, but with its already bloated song list, this one sadly was dropped. Thankfully, you can listen to this on YouTube if you look up Very Dangerous by Rhema.
I wish they kept it, I really do.
Right, it's actually a really fun track. We'd love to play more of it. There are actually a few other old Rhema hits that were never meant for the movie. They have thankfully been collected and are available on YouTube. You can find them if you search up Vinnie Rotoli. That's VINNIERATTOLLE. There are about a dozen fresh tracks here, and we'll have a link on our Facebook and on our Twitter if you want to check them out.
Is Vinnie Rotoli somebody we know?
Not that I'm aware of.
It sounds like Craig. It could be a Craig alias.
It could be a Craig alias. But then again, almost anybody online could be a Craig alias.
Craig's a genius, you know.
Craig is a genius. I like Craig. He's got good style.
Yeah, he's really good.
He is.
The movie has been featured on a famous German show, the Schleffers series, or worst films of all time. It's essentially a bad movie show a la Joe Bob or Elvira or Mystery Science Theater even.
The song Little Bit of Heaven was actually intended to come later in the film, almost right at the end, right before the ending number that later was moved to the beginning of the film. I know, it's confusing.
Right.
The sequence was re-edited and moved up to play out as a fantasy of Absid, and I think all for the better. It makes a lot more sense. Yeah, it's much better
that way. The music video for Justine by Jimmy and the Mustangs is edited differently than the film version. It also includes additional footage, and I noticed this. You get a lot more Justine in the music video.
You do.
A lot more Justine. And so much so that now I can point her out in the movie when we're watching it.
I think it's weird that she's a character in the actual movie.
But not in the actual movie, you know?
Right, only an extra. In the most minimal of extras, actually.
Right, I mean, that could have been like a side plot for like Duke having a good girl on the side, you know?
I had to pay very close attention just to confirm that she actually existed as an extra on set aside from the music video, which she does. She's there.
Right.
But that is all you'll get from her.
Sad.
The song Combine Man contained lyrics from the actual word-for-word ramblings of a patient named Eugene, whom Craig Jensen and Jeff Casey both worked for and cared for at their day jobs. The money that Jensen earned from this film allowed him to leave that occupation. And I've just got to say, thank you to Eugene, because Combine Man is a fantastic song.
Combine Man is fantastic, and he's responsible for more than just that. He's responsible for that little three-step dance that the aliens do.
He is, which really means that Eugene had a lot of contribution to the alien style at large, and I like that fact. I think that's fantastic.
Me too. During the filming, Mark Jackson had an adverse reaction to dental work and wound up with a swollen cheek. Production was shuffled to accommodate, but some facial swelling is noticeable just before the aliens steal the Earthlings' clothing. This was also their least favorite scene to shoot.
Craig Sheffer had actually presumed that he was hired because of his long hair, its dreamy curls, and its luscious bands. But he was soon disappointed as he arrived on location, and he was sent immediately to get a haircut. He returned with a hairstyle that was deemed too ordinary. So he was sent back for his second haircut. Poor Craig.
Oh, I know, he's a shaved lion.
A shaved lion.
This movie was intended to be a spoof of B-movies.
The original script, written by James Escadetti, before it was adapted into the musical that we know by Edward Gould, was called Attack of the Aliens, and it was not originally meant to be a musical.
That would have made the movie a lot different, wouldn't it? Like, I mean, I feel like a lot of the soul would have been taken out of it.
A lot of the soul would have been taken out of the movie. The original concept by James Escadetti is gold. I really love his original concept.
Me too. I do really like it.
But Edward Gould did a lot to make that into the vehicle that we see. It's really a disappointment that it got shelved.
The majority of the movie was filmed from November to December of 1983, but the opening segment of When the Rain Begins to Fall was filmed in April of 1984, and the movie then being released in April of 1985. The soundtrack album to the film was released in 1984 by Curb Records.
While Rhema's album that they had made to release alongside the film was shelved by Interplanetary Curb. Outdoor scenes for this movie were shot in Fairburn, Georgia, and featured local residents as extra, including members of the Fairburn Volunteer Fire Department. That makes so much sense. No hair.
What?
Our hunky boy in the beginning of the movie.
Oh, he's
a firefighter.
Aha!
I bet you he's a firefighter.
I bet. Hold on, I'm gonna go look if Nathan Fillion has any firefighter brothers. Oh, rats, he doesn't. So at the end of Combine Man, there's a scene where all the aliens are grabbing at Allison LaPlaca. This scene was all improv, and Allison was not very happy with those Rhema boys after that.
During the production of this episode, Voyage of the Rock Aliens saw some massive IMDb updates. Notably, it now includes all of the Rock Aliens' full profile pictures as well as information on them, which it did not have before.
Yeah, definitely not, because we were actively researching and it was just updating.
And Tom Nolan's profile picture is now his picture from Voyage of the Rock Aliens, which is weird. I'm not sure if it was that way before. I actually cannot confirm on that.
I don't think so.
I
feel like there was another picture.
I don't think it was either, but I don't. As where with the other aliens, we actually know because we had difficulty looking them up because of the lack of information on IMDb, where there is now more information. It's something we distinctly know. This one we aren't quite as sure about, but it does seem different than it was before.
Right.
That being said, we are just trying to spread more rock alien conspiracies.
The most rock alien conspiracies.
The most that we can. We get a penny for each one.
If you're looking for Tom Nolan in other films, you might notice him as the manager of the All-American Burger in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Are we actually at the end of our facts?
Actually, though. Yes.
That's awesome. Wow, guys, I guess we're actually going to have to move on to our most favorite, least favorite.
Right. Yay.
All right, with most favorite, least favorite, let's get right into it, shall we?
Alright, so first up we have most favorite song and least favorite song.
Alright, most favorite, least favorite song. Okay, so most favorite. I'm going to put out Combine Man because it has to be put out there.
Combine Man's a good choice.
Oh my gosh, especially when you look up the lyrics, it becomes so punchy and you really get addicted to singing along to it.
Right, yeah, it really is.
That being said.
So my favorite is You Bring Out the Lover in Me. And that's mostly because I love the number itself. But the song, I love that too. And eagle-eyed viewers will notice during the panty dance number with the Footloose stuff, the last girl does not have any panties.
She doesn't have any panties. She also crumples. I love that
She also crumples.
I love that everybody has a unique set of panties. It's so cute. And the little tiptoe dance is just so adorable.
It immediately reminded me of Footloose, the opening of Footloose, and I love that.
And I love singing along to this song. Like the whole...
I know, you...
Just can't help myself when you're around.
I know. Alan keeps breaking into song every time that number comes on.
I know, because she's singing in the same register that I sing in, and it's fun. It's fun. She does do it better than I do.
Yeah.
I know. It's
well,
sad,
I mean...
but what can you do? Sometimes you do the best you can, and Pia outdoes you.
That's why she's married to a record producer.
That is
was married to a record producer.
Right. Okay. So with our favorite songs out of the way, let's get to our least favorite songs, shall we?
Least favorite. So my least favorite was A Little Bit of Heaven, which I feel like might be a controversial opinion out there because it was like a really beloved song on Eastern Shores.
Right. A lot of people really liked it, but I just find it very drab. There's also the song number during the whole montage sequence where they're doing all the sample gathering.
Yeah, the scene where Greg is scooping poop.
Yeah, the song number is called She Doesn't Mean a Thing to Me.
Yeah.
And it's an okay kind of 80s style bop, but it gets a little bit old after you've heard it a dozen times.
Right, I mean, it kind of blends into the background and is kind of forgettable.
And this whole montage scene also, it's funny the first time I watched it, but then it doesn't have any lasting qualities for me, and it's probably my least favorite part of the movie.
And the only purpose of this scene is really to just introduce Chainsaw at the end of it.
To introduce Chainsaw at the end of it, because Stovitz is trying to do some kind of examination at the mental hospital.
Right.
Gathering some sort of samples. It's not really clear what he's doing
what
there.
Or why, right?
Okay, so I guess we're to least favorite scene, and I think everybody probably knows my least favorite scene. It's going to be the scene on the bridge. Not because it's an altogether bad scene. You can put as many breaths in other movies as you want to put in them, but... And I know there's going to be people who agree with me and B, people who disagree with me. And I feel like I normally would be on such a different side of this opinion if it just wasn't so unnecessary and just random.
I mean, that is the one thing that keeps it from being a G or PG movie.
And if you were to say,